A seismic shift is underway along the U.S. southern border, one that is quietly transforming the region in ways few could have predicted just a decade ago. The landscape, once defined by the familiar rhythms of cross-border trade and migration, is now being shaped by new and powerful forces. But this transformation isn't about the usual headlines of migration surges or trade disputes. Instead, it's about a new player making its presence felt, one whose ambitions stretch far beyond the border itself. Mexico is forging a deep, strategic relationship with China, one that goes far beyond trade, touching finance, technology, and infrastructure. Chinese companies are investing billions, building factories, and establishing a foothold in key Mexican industries, from manufacturing to energy. This realignment positions Mexico within a new sphere of influence, as the BRICS bloc expands and challenges the old economic order. Mexico's growing ties with China and other emerging powers are shifting the balance, creating new alliances and opportunities. The U.S. now faces a global competitor at its doorstep, complicating decades of North American stability. The border, once a symbol of U.S.-Mexico cooperation and rivalry, is now a front line in a much larger geopolitical contest. Chinese investment brings jobs and development, but also Beijing's strategic interests, forcing Washington to rethink its approach. The U.S. must now navigate a border region where Chinese influence is growing, and where old assumptions no longer hold. The concepts of de-dollarization and multipolar competition are now visible in Mexico's ports, factories, and financial deals. The yuan is making inroads, and new trade routes are being established that bypass traditional U.S. channels. The U.S.-Mexico border story is no longer about two countries, it's about three, with China's vision reshaping the future. As these dynamics unfold, the world is watching to see how this new era of competition and cooperation will redefine the region for generations to come. China is now Mexico's second-largest trading partner, a position that has transformed the economic landscape between the two nations in just a few short years. Trade and investment are growing at breakneck speed, with Chinese goods and capital flowing into Mexico at unprecedented levels, fueling new opportunities and challenges alike. In 2024, Mexico's trade deficit with China hit a staggering $120 billion, highlighting the scale and intensity of this economic relationship. Meanwhile, direct investment from China topped $710 million as Chinese firms seek to establish a stronger foothold in the region. Chinese companies, from major automakers to electronics giants, are embedding themselves deep within Mexico's supply chain, drawn by the promise of easier access to the vast U.S. market just across the border. BYD, a leading Chinese electric vehicle maker, is building new manufacturing plants in Mexico, signaling a long-term commitment to the country's industrial growth. The company is also establishing direct shipping routes to Mexico, bypassing traditional U.S. ports and streamlining the flow of goods. These new logistics networks are designed to cut transit times dramatically, making supply chains more efficient and responsive to global demand. By reducing reliance on American infrastructure, China is not only saving costs, but also reflecting a broader, long-term strategy to diversify its trade routes and partners. Mexican officials are actively courting Chinese investment, offering incentives and smoothing the way for new projects, as both countries look to deepen their economic ties. This signals Mexico's intent to embrace China's economic partnership, even as it carefully balances its long-standing relationship with the United States, navigating a new era of global trade. Mexico is quietly joining a global shift away from the US dollar, a movement that's gaining momentum across the world as countries seek to diversify their economic partnerships and reduce reliance on a single currency. In recent months, Mexico has started conducting some of its trade with China in yuan, marking a significant departure from the traditional dollar-based system that has dominated global commerce for decades. This move, which aligns closely with the broader BRICS agenda, is more than just a symbolic gesture. It chips away at American financial dominance and strengthens Beijing's influence in the region, signaling a shift in the balance of economic power. China's currency strategy, making the yuan stronger against the dollar but weaker against other currencies, means Chinese goods become even cheaper for Mexican buyers, giving them a competitive edge in the marketplace and making imports more affordable. By trading in yuan, Mexico can bypass the dollar entirely, secure better prices for goods, and shield itself from the volatility of U.S. monetary policy, which often impacts emerging markets the hardest. For China, Every transaction settled in yuan is a step toward building a new global financial order, one where the yuan stands alongside, or even rivals, the dollar in international trade. For Mexico, this shift means not only more stable prices for imports, but also deeper and more complex economic ties to Beijing, potentially reshaping its trade relationships for years to come. This financial pivot is a quiet but powerful challenge to the status quo, one that could have ripple effects throughout North America and beyond, as other countries watch closely. The new axis of power in North America is being built not just with trade deals, but with currency swaps and innovative financial arrangements that are redefining the region's economic landscape. The Mexico-China relationship is deepening through education and technology, not just trade. Joint doctoral programs like those between Dongguan University and UNAM are creating a new generation of Mexican scientists with strong ties to China. Mexican students return home with technical expertise and cultural fluency, building lasting networks. Mexico is now a key partner at major Chinese tech events, collaborating on high-tech industries and research. Cultural exchanges and celebrations reinforce this growing partnership, smoothing the way for deeper cooperation. By investing in people and knowledge, China is building influence in Mexico that goes beyond economics. Despite welcoming Chinese investment, Mexico faces a flood of cheap Chinese goods threatening local industries. The government is raising tariffs on Asian vehicles to protect domestic manufacturers from low-cost Chinese competition. This tension mirrors challenges faced by other BRICS nations, like India, which also struggles with trade imbalances. Mexico wants Chinese factories, but not at the expense of its own industrial base. The government is negotiating tough, seeking to reduce its trade deficit while deepening strategic ties. The relationship is dynamic. Mexico is defending its interests, not simply yielding to China. China and Mexico are reshaping trade routes with ambitious infrastructure projects like the Interoceanic Corridor. This land bridge, backed by China, offers an alternative to the Panama Canal and secures supply chains from geopolitical risks. China's investment ensures preferential access to critical infrastructure, embedding itself in Mexico's future. Digital integration is also growing as Chinese tech companies expand in Mexico, raising both opportunities and security concerns. These projects represent a long-term commitment, making China a key player in Mexico's development. The alliance is built on both physical and digital foundations, creating deep interdependence. It's a partnership designed to be too important to fail. U.S. protectionism has pushed Mexico to seek alternatives, opening the door for China. Tariffs on Mexican goods created uncertainty, incentivizing Mexico to diversify its economic ties. While the U.S. built trade barriers, China offered investment, technology, and market access. The U.S. share of China's exports has dropped, while Mexico's importance to Beijing has grown. Mexico's pivot is pragmatic, a response to shifting alliances and unpredictable U.S. policies. The rise of Chinese influence at the U.S. border is partly a result of America's own actions. The lesson in a complex world, protectionist policies can have unintended, far-reaching consequences.